Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Moyna Bass Fishers. I'm Jim Moyna, professional bass fisherman. In this video, I want to address something I've noticed with forward sonar. I use Lowrance Active Target, but I think this goes for all brands, okay? And I kind of noticed this while I was watching the live stream for the Major League Fishing's Major League Fishing, Toledo, and also the Sandy Cooper tournament that they had. So really for both of those, while watching both of those, it kind of dawned on me something. And I was going to post a video on this, which I am right now. But before I did, I was watching as I was driving from Texas here to South Carolina and listening to a podcast of Todd Castledine and Matt Steffen, my fellow Bridgeford pro angler. They touched on this very topic. And that is, I believe that many pros are overstating what they're actually seeing on their forward sonar. And why do I say that? Because first of all, I always felt like incomplete or insufficient in my own interpretation of what I'm seeing. Like I said, I'm using Active Target 1 right now on a Lowrance HDS Live Pro 12-inch screen. Okay, and I use the full screen. And typically I'm on a 80-degree forward range, and and then the down range just varies on what lake I'm fishing, anywhere from 10 to 50 feet sometimes. But anyways, people, I would always hear guys saying, I saw this really big bass on my sonar, or, I can tell the difference between this fish, that fish, and this and that. Whereas in reality, I don't think that's the case. For myself, I cannot tell the difference between a 2-pound bass on the screen and a 5-pound bass on the screen. I cannot tell the difference. I can tell the difference between like a 10-inch bass and like a 3-pound bass or a 4-pound bass. I can tell that difference. But like a 2-pounder from a 3-pounder, or a 2-pounder from a 4-pounder, I'm sorry, I can't tell the difference, and I always thought that was my own deficiency. Likewise, I cannot tell the difference between a 1.5, 2-pound crappie from a 1.5, 2-pound bass. If I come up to a brush pile and I see a fish sitting in the top of it and it's motionless, sometimes when I throw in there and that fish chases my bait and bites it, sometimes it's a crappie. Other times, it has the same image, same look to it. I throw the bait over there. The fish swims after the bait, eats it. I reel it in. It's a bass. I can't tell the difference when I'm looking at it. Or catfish. I'll see a fish suspended in some pull timber, throw over there, and it's a 5-pound catfish. Next time I throw over there, it's a 3-pound largemouth. I can't tell the difference. And I thought this was my own deficiency. And it's same with like walleye, okay? When I throw to a mark, this is back in Minnesota, for example. When I throw to a mark on the graph, I might pull in a 3-pound smallmouth. Then I'll see the very, very exact similar image, behaving the exact similar way, and I'll throw a jerkbait over there, snatch it down a few times. All of a sudden, the streak recognizes it, comes shooting straight up, blasts it. I reel it in, and it's a freaking 3 or 4 pound walleye. And I can't tell the difference. And I don't know how. And I've been doing this for a few years now, a lot with this unit. I mean, my use of it. And there are some subtleties I can differentiate, but there's a lot that you just cannot. And I thought it was my own deficiencies, my own lack of use. But man, I've used this thing as much as a lot of people. Maybe it's not as much as everybody, but I've got hours and hours on it. And I'm seeing, but you keep hearing how guys are saying, oh yeah, I can tell when that's a catfish, or I can tell when that's a bass, or when that's a drum, or I can tell when that's a 2-pound bass. I can tell when that's a 4-pound bass. Well, I think we've busted those people. They are over exaggerating. They are lying. They're just trying to, their ego boost themselves or whatever. I mean, there are certain subtleties. There are some things you can determine, but a lot of this you can't. And here's my proof. It's because while I'm watching these live streams on Toledo Bend, when that's all they're doing is pulling fish off of their forward sonar with various minnow baits, swim baits, and that. We're on Sandy Cooper here. They're pulling these fish out. Why are they catching catfish? Why are they? If they recognize, if these are the top pros in the game, these are MLF, and the Bassmasters was also at Toledo Bend. These guys are catching catfish. Why are they casting to a catfish? If these pros are that good at determining catfish from bass, well, why are they even wasting their time throwing at a mark that's a catfish? And I've seen them catching crappies. Why are they catching 1.5, 2-pound crappies? Why are they wasting their time? It's because they can't tell the difference. They're just like you and me. We can't tell the difference between a lot of stuff. They got 20 pounds. They got 20 pounds in the bag. They got 20 pounds in their live well. Why are they suddenly catching a 1.5 pounder off their forward sonar? I mean, if they're that good, shouldn't they know that that's a 1.5 pounder and not mess with it, not waste their time with it? Tournament time is extremely valuable. If you knew for sure that was a 1.5 pound bass, you would not even throw at it. So I think these guys are busted. There are some subtle, you can tell some certain things. There's certain speed. There are certain fish you can tell that are not bass. There was a certain mark on Rayburn, and I'm thinking maybe these were big alligator gar or something, but I would get a really hard mark, and then it would like spike out top and bottom from that hard mark. And then right behind it, about a foot or two, would be kind of a faint mark. And they'd be moving evenly. And every time I would throw at that, every single time, nothing, it wouldn't react. It wouldn't move. It wouldn't do nothing. And the fish would be slowly, a lot of times this image would be slowly swimming. And I don't know if it's an alligator gar, but whatever it is, it wasn't a bass because I threw at tons of this. And finally, I quit throwing at it. But throwing at this thing never got you a bite. Likewise, for example, on Lake Washita when I was there was often these bigger marks that would often be swimming in pairs. And I kept throwing at those. Whenever I'd see them, I'd throw at them. Nothing would happen. Nothing ever happened with those marks. So I got to the point where I realized I really didn't need to waste my time throwing at that type of a image. So you can, and I'm thinking those might have been giant drum or giant carp because I did catch giant drum and giant carp on that lake. So yeah, believe it or not, big giant carp. You can check my Facebook page for some of those pictures. Big giant carp on artificial baits hooked in the mouth, which sometimes I've seen that happen before in other lakes. It does happen. So yes, you can get to a point where you can differentiate certain things, but man, when somebody's telling me they can tell the difference between a 2-pound bass and a 4-pound bass, I just don't know. In fact, here's another example. A couple of years ago on Sam Rayburn in a Toyota Series tournament, a Major League Fishing Toyota Series tournament, I had big bass on day one of that event, it weighed 810 or 814, I think 814. But anyways, when I spotted that thing on the active target, I didn't get all excited. I didn't get all jumpy and like, oh my gosh, there's a big one. No, I'm just like, oh, there's one over there. I threw my swim bait over there, watched the swim bait, and it was kind of motionless. I just watched the swim bait go down to the mark, and then I didn't see it keep sinking. It just ended there. I didn't feel the bite either. And so I'm like, something's got to be going on. So I just started reeling, and the rod started bending over, and it was an 814. But that image really did not stand out as an 814. To me, it looked just like just looked like so many of the other bass images. I mean, I was fully expecting it to be 2 to 3 pounds, not 814. So I think, it's probably, if you're really good at it, and that was back in my early days with this, okay? So maybe now I might be able to have a better idea of the size. Maybe I can tell the difference between an 814 and a 2 or 3 pounder. And certainly, I think there are guys that can legitimately tell the difference between an 814 and a 4 pounder. Guys that are really good at it, really on it. But I'm not bad with these devices. I'm not bad at all. I've got a couple of years on it now, and I mean, I'm probably not top of the line, but I'm pretty good. So, with that being said, don't feel like you are incapable of understanding what you're seeing. Don't get frustrated that your buddy on the dock is, can count. It's telling you he can count the scales on the side of the fish, or your buddy can tell you that that's a 2 pound 12 ouncer he's seen on the screen instead of a 1 pound 12 ouncer. They're just blowing their own horn. Okay. That is not happening. And like I said, Todd Castledine and Matt Steffen, in their discussion in that podcast I was watching, especially Todd was really kind of leaning on this topic. He was saying the exact same thing that I have been wanting to say, and that it really dawned on me watching these first few events of the year. Like, hey, why is that guy catching that catfish? That guy's a top caliber pro. I mean, he's regarded as one of the forward sonar experts of the experts, but here he's catching a catfish, or here he's catching a crappie. Hey, these guys, they don't necessarily know exactly what they're looking at either sometimes. So I guess the point of what I'm saying is, as you're trying to learn this tool, don't feel like you're inadequate. Some of these guys are overblowing what they're seeing. They don't know. They think they're seeing one thing when they really aren't. And that's what I got to say about this one. So thanks for watching. Over.